Hello, and welcome to what may be the first of the first Nocturnal Ramble, which is an idea I have potentially for a series of videos in which I ramble nocturnally, that is, in the middle of the night, being nocturnal, on various subjects which I happen to be thinking about at the time, which is usually psychology and my experience, analysing my own experiences through the lens of psychology, or more specifically, a lot of the time, personality typology, or MBTI, it's the form in which it's most commonly known. Although my understanding is really more rooted in Jung's original typology, as articulated in his book Psychological Types, and a few other writers, such as John Beebe, who have kind of built on Jung's framework. But of course, the MBTI is kind of a part of that universe of Jungian typology. But yeah, what I was thinking about at the moment, and I thought I might record a ramble about, is something which an idea which I actually was kind of sparked by a YouTuber who has done a few videos about personality typology, called Blank Boy, I believe, who is an ENTP, I think. But what I was thinking about specifically was one video he did, in which he just kind of mentions in passing, I think, in the video, he's talking about introverted feeling, FI, and specifically relating it to the idea of qualia, which is a philosophical concept which is like the idea of objects of perception or experience which have a kind of irreducible quality or flavour, where such as you just kind of experience them, and it can't be, the experience itself is just a thing, an immediate reality to your perception with its own peculiar identity or flavour, which you can't really be broken down or into component parts. So a particularly obvious example of this is colour. So you look at the colour red, and it just is red. It kind of is just an immediate reality. You recognise it. It has its own particular experience or flavour or identity, and as a thing of perception. But and you can't really break it down any further than that. It just is what it is. It's just red. And particularly, and he was saying that this is actually to do with how introverted feeling perceives things, that the idea that introverted feeling apprehends things as a kind of qualia, a kind of irreducible essence or flavour, and obviously that this qualia is feeling. It's a form of feeling. So it's kind of, a subjective form of feeling. So that introverted feeling attaches this particular flavour to particular things, particular ideas, and I felt. And that really interested me because regarding my own type, I've kind of vacillated a ton. I'm not even sure about my own type, or even if typology, even if there is such thing as personality types anymore, if it really does describe real differences, or if I actually fit into it. But I think I do identify quite a bit of the descriptions of introverted feeling. I think the personalities I most correspond to would be, which I seem to most resemble in a lot of ways, would be INFP and INTP, and I have kind of qualities of both types. I even have a bit of ISTJ, strangely, but kind of tentatively assuming that for the sake of the ideas which I'm going to articulate, which I'm talking about now, I'll kind of run with the hypothesis that I'm actually an INFP, and I think in a lot of ways that type resonates with me more than any other type. So and it seems what I was particularly what seems particularly interesting now about this qualia thing to me is that it the idea of qualia, I feel that it very much describes a lot of how I understand things, or how I kind of mentally latch onto to particular ideas in a way. Even though in many ways I have the TI thing of being quite analytical and precise, and defining things and breaking things down. There is this strong element of qualia to how I seem to understand things, and especially how I relate to personality type. Which is what I found particularly interesting, is that for me I seem to have always related to personality type as in a kind of qualia way, by which I mean, for me, each of the as I've studied the personality types and looked at different examples of people with each of the types, it's kind of each of the types has kind of resolved into a sort of qualia, into a sort of essence or flavour, which defines in a partial way a person with a given personality type. So that there is an ISTP qualia which I see in ISTP individuals that I kind of encounter. There's an INFP qualia. There's a ENFJ qualia, an ISFJ qualia, and so on. And it doesn't mean that this kind of flavour, this qualia, defines an individual who I believe to be of that personality type. It doesn't mean it defines them in totality or anything like that, but there's something that this particular qualia characterises something about that person. It forms a part of how I relate to that person, or what kind of the flavour of that person, the flavour that they have. And the person is a combination of different kind of qualias, different flavours, and the personality type makes up one of those qualias. And I think and what's interesting is that it can be broken down into component parts. So in that I can if I start analysing why do I see this person as having this flavour which I associate with this personality type, it can be broken down into all of the different behaviours of that person, like a pattern of behaviours which I've noticed in that person, which correspond to the descriptions and the mental cognitive functions associated with a given personality type. And so it can be broken down into a series of observations which are kind of correlated together in a pattern which corresponds to a personality type. But it's kind of a greater than the sum of its parts thing. It's like the qualia can be broken down into these component parts, or these can be seen as kind of going into it, collectively kind of constituting it. But the qualia itself is just like this essence, this kind of is almost an aesthetic quality, a flavour, a feeling, which is just somehow embodies that type. And even and even it can be broken down further than that. So in addition to there being a qualia for a given personality type, there's also a qualia for each cognitive function, and there's a qualia for each of the functions, each of the archetypes which functions can be paired with. According to John Beebe's system, each of the functions in a given personality type is correlated with a particular archetype. So there's a hero function, a parent function, a child function, then you have the anima or animus, and then you've got the shadow functions, which I won't enumerate. But yeah, then and so and each of those archetypes has its own qualia, which is kind of combined with the qualia of the function in a given personality type. So say an INFP has parent extroverted intuition, and so that particular combination has its own kind of qualia. I mean, I might be kind of taking that a bit too far, but yeah. So yeah, that was kind of so that was what was particularly interesting to me. I guess, yeah, I guess that might be it. Probably, I think I've articulated my idea. So yeah, I mean, feel free to weigh in on if you are watching this, on if this kind of makes sense to you, if you identify as using introverted feeling, and whether this way of kind of apprehending things through introverted feeling, or this theory about introverted feeling as the apprehension of kind of qualias or essences or flavours which are associated with things in the world. It doesn't just have to be, obviously, personality types or cognitive functions, but that seemed to be the example which kind of stood out to me most from my own experience. But there's also qualities for a particular aesthetic, a particular style of art, or even like it can also be related to kind of auteur theory, in kind of film, where you have certain directors who, like, every movie they direct has this particular aesthetic and kind of storytelling kind of quality, or a particular kind of atmosphere, which just somehow is unique to that director, and it kind of is like their signature or their fingerprint. I think, for example, I recently watched Guillermo del Toro's most recent film, Pinocchio, which I thought was brilliant, and which is very interesting because it's quite far outside. It's quite different in terms of the genre to anything that he's done before. Like, it's sort of children's film, or a film which is at least made to be enjoyed by children and adults, and but it still has his kind of qualia, his flavour, his aesthetic kind of quality, his storytelling sensibility, his characteristic themes. And for me, that those things, that qualia, which is a Guillermo del Toro film, is made up of all of these different elements, but you experience it in the moment, or I experience it when I'm watching one of his films, as a kind of aesthetic totality, a total atmosphere or feeling which just kind of suffuses everything. Every one of his films that I've watched, at least, a lot of it is aesthetic, and it's to do with the visual style, but it's also to do with the storytelling style, the particular themes, the particular kind of emotions and values and kind of sensibility which goes into his films. And so that's an example of how this qualia apprehension sort of, which I'm kind of tentatively associating with the function of introverted feeling, sort of relates to a different area, a different aspect of life. And so, yeah, this is my theory, that this is kind of a major part of how introverted feeling as a function works, and how it apprehends things, how it relates to the world, and how it kind of, and yeah, so how it kind of makes sense of things and attaches identity or an essence to the different things that the individual encounters in the world. So I mean, I guess let me know if you want, if this makes sense to you, or it's just a theory, just a speculation. But yeah, it'd be interesting. Just thought I'd put that out there, I guess. So that, I think that's the first of my typological rambles. Maybe I'll upload this if I can summon the courage to do so. But yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.